Have you ever gone looking for something only to have that experience when you found it, like, oh, it was here the whole time. My phone was in my pocket all along. My notebook was right there on the table. I must have walked past it 10 times. You were looking, but you just didn't see it. Let me change a little bit. Have you ever had a set of different experiences that you didn't know were all related to one another until much later when it all became clear? Like if you've ever had somebody plan a surprise party for you, and in the weeks leading up to it, there was that time when your friend quickly hid their phone from you. And then that other time you were with your group of friends and they all looked at one another and smiled, and you thought you noticed it, but they said, no, there was nothing going on. And then there were quite a few Amazon packages coming to the house, like more than usual, and your mom would always race out to get them. She said it was for something that she was doing at work. Then you're going out one night with your family, and for some reason you had to take 2 cars, but whatever, only to eventually arrive at the place and strangely go around and come in the back door kind of in the dark, and then, okay, you go in, the lights turn on, and all your friends are there, and everyone shouted, and then, okay, you finally see. All of those things were connected. There was all of this stuff happening around you the whole time, but you didn't see what it was pointing to. The thing that I like to draw our attention to is that there actually will be times in your life when, as you observe what's going on around you, you genuinely will want to know, what is all this pointing to? Because you're starting to believe that unlike some of these subjects in school, that these things are in fact relevant. And you're actually curious. You've seen enough happening around you to make you wonder. Now, it might happen in the classroom at some point. You know, the farther you go in school and the more your passions develop, the more likely you'll be engaged in a new way. But also in things like relationships. Everything from, oh, they smiled at me. What is this pointing to, oh, my friend started sitting by some other people at lunch lately, and you know, they're not really returning my text messages as quickly as they used to. What does this mean? Or a hobby you'll develop. Maybe you'll enjoy working on cars or computers, and there will be this drive within you to see how all of these different parts make sense together. Or you'll wonder how your unique experiences and gifts are pointing to clues about your purpose and your career choice. Have you ever felt that way? Ever wondered about any of those things? When you think about your own story, your own life, and all the different fragments and moments and influences, you ever wondered, how is this all connected? If your life is a story, then memories are like those dog-eared pages in the book. And as you look back at those, does it make you eager then to look forward to the unwritten pages ahead of you? Or does thinking about all that maybe bring something a little more negative? Maybe does it make you more fearful, more uncertain, given all the crazy stuff that's going on when you look at the world around you, when you look at stuff you're scrolling through your feed, or just when you stroll around the corner? I mean, it's been a hard run lately. It leads some of us to more of a hopeless place, like, well, as I look at everything, it's like, what's the point? What is all of this pointing? Well, nothing, not anything good anyway. And it can be hard. We're all struggling to fit together the pieces of our lives and to make sense of the world around us. And probably a lot of us have this sense too that we want to be part of something bigger, of something that it goes beyond us. We want to help a hurting world, but we need help ourselves. And so how does our story fit into the story? As we're asking all of these questions, 2 things first. All right, number 1, it's okay not to see the whole picture or how everything fits together. Whether you're talking about cars or relationships or current events or the nature of reality itself, it's okay to be honest that you don't know everything. In fact, beware of people who think they know everything. And number 2, it's okay to seek before you see. It's okay to ask questions, to be curious, to wonder about how things fit together, and to seek meaning in the different things happening around you before you see what it's all pointing to. You can seek before you see. We're talking about these things because I hope that it will help us notice or prepare us to notice some important things from the life of Jesus. Will you go there with me to one part of the Bible story? We began to explore it last week. If you were here, it's in the New Testament book of John, chapter 3. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You have friends with these names? And they headline the first 4 books of the New Testament. They all wrote these biographies of Jesus, right? We're in John, which is one of those biographies. So Jesus comes out of nowhere. Not really, but kind of. Actually, someone said that about him in the part of the story we were in last week. Like, man, he's from nowhere. Nothing good comes from the place where he comes from. Like, what good comes from New Jersey, we might say, or whatever stereotypical place you might think of, all right? So Jesus, you got to get the picture here. Jesus doesn't look like much when he shows up. It's not from the right place, but would you look at what's going on all around Jesus? I mean, have you heard Jesus talk and teach? Have you ever heard anyone speak with such authority and with such wisdom and conviction, who could read into the depths of your soul and assess the wider goings on of society and so boldly speak for God in a relevant way? Now, more than that, when you watch Jesus, you see he's just a force for good. He's deeply compassionate, tender enough to draw you close, and powerful enough to beat down the darkness within you. It's like the forces of evil, which grip so many people and they burst out in violence and hatred and insults and abuse and so many things that hurt us. Jesus, by his sheer presence, overcomes evil with good. He's not so much to look at at first, but there's something about him that the world has never seen. Someone so pure, so humble, so strong, so loving, so powerful. Every room he walks into becomes a different place. And in John chapter 3, a man named Nicodemus has been observing all of this, and he wonders, he's curious. What is all this pointing to? All of these things that are happening around Jesus and through Jesus, are they connected in some way to something that I should care about? Now, he does seem to want to know, but he doesn't seem to want anyone to know that he wants to know. So he comes to Jesus at night. Nicodemus is actually a leader, like an elected official kind of a person. So he's supposed to have things figured out, right? Maybe he doesn't think it's okay to have questions. Or more specifically, if he does have questions, he probably really doesn't want to be caught asking this nobody from nowhere. But nevertheless, under the cover of darkness, he comes to Jesus with his questions. That's a good model for us, if I could just say that right here. Not necessarily the in the darkness part, but coming to Jesus with questions. Again, we're all trying to make sense of our story and of the nature of things. Jesus ain't afraid of your questions about that. And neither is this church. Again, it's okay to seek before you see. And it's okay to say, I don't think I'm seeing everything clearly right now. Jesus wants to help Nicodemus see, and he wants the same for us too. He wants us to come out of the dark, to flip the lights on, to have a new perspective on everything going on around us and within us. So, with Nicodemus, you still with me here, following along in the story? With Nicodemus, Jesus uses an image, and we're all familiar with it, childbirth. You were there for your own birth, I guess, right? You probably don't remember it. Maybe you've seen others. Anyway, Jesus he's more in mind than just the typical delivery room kind of scene. In fact, the things that Jesus has been doing, all of these different events, healing and driving out evil and forgiving and teaching, you got to read about all of this in other parts of John's writing. All of these things are pointing to the fact that something new is coming to birth. It's being born right now. It's happening right in front of you, even if you don't see it. So what is it? Well, let me try to say it briefly, because you're wondering, and Nicodemus is wondering, and we're all wondering, man, the world is pretty messed up place. There's pain out there, and there's pain in here, and there's pain all around me. I mean, there's good stuff too, but we all have a sense that something ain't right. That there's stuff that's been done to us, and if we're honest, there's stuff we've done. We've caused pain. And so if there is a God out there somewhere, what is that God doing about all of this? Is there any hope for anything better than what we've got? And Jesus says, yes. And it's not just a hope that's far away. It's being born right now with me, through me, Jesus says. In fact, speaking of birth, there is a new family being created around me. And it doesn't matter where you were born the first time, or how important anyone thinks you are, or if you come from somewhere or nowhere. If you're a somebody like Nicodemus or a nobody, you can be part of this family and find healing and find purpose. It's like a new birth and a new identity. And all of this stuff that just ain't right with you can be set right. And evil has no power over you, has no power over this family because of Jesus. There's freedom and forgiveness. There's peace and joy. That's the story that Jesus is carrying forward. The author has stepped into the story, meaning the God who made the world and wants to share it with us is here in a new way in Jesus. God is very aware of all the ways that we have wrecked the world. Sin and evil have poisoned it, and everyone's infected. Okay, I'm sorry. I know that's not a great image to think about right now, but everyone is infected. Everything has been corrupted. We see it when we look out there, and we see it when we look in here. And Jesus is not only talking to Nicodemus about what's going on in here with individuals, but with the whole world. Yeah, the whole mess, all the chaos, Jesus intends to deal with all of it and bring a new world into being. A new birth, not just for you, Nicodemus, or you watching this, but a new birth for the whole creation. And Jesus says, when you see lame people walking and deaf people gaining their hearing and blind people their sight and evil being cast out and sins forgiven, it's all pointing to this. Don't be in the dark about it. Flip on the lights and see what God is doing through Jesus to make everything new. You, me, and the whole world can be made new. How can this be? Why is this the case? How could all of the pieces of the story fit together like this? Because God so loved the world. The God who made the world loves the world. And he sent his only son, Jesus, that anyone who looks to him and trusts will not be doomed to suffer the poisonous effects of sin and death, but would be saved from that to experience life in God's new world, in a new family. See, God didn't send Jesus to condemn the world and just let all that evil and corruption have its way with us. No, God was rescuing the world he loves and the people he loves through Jesus. That's my summary of John 3:16 and 17. Maybe you've heard those words quoted before in some other way. They're meant to be good news. Good news for people who long for something better than just the crappy stuff all around them. For people who feel trapped and beaten down. For people who just know that something's wrong, something's off when I look at my own life and when I look at the facade that's behind all those other people's Instagram photos. It's good news for those who have questions and who are confused and feel like they're groping around in the dark. For those who feel guilty and lonely. For those who are angry and ashamed. And frankly, even for those who feel no shame, it's good news if only we would look to Jesus and trust what we see. Jesus wants to give birth to something new in us because he loves us. And you may not understand how all that works. And Nicodemus, he had trouble kind of getting his head around that at first. You may not see clearly what that might mean for you. You may still feel like you're in the dark and not really sure about what all this church stuff is about, or what this guy with an old Justin Bieber haircut is talking about. And I was like, baby, oh. Well, what is it all pointing to? But it's okay to seek before you see. This is a place where questions are welcome. Curiosity is encouraged. That doesn't have to be hindered. We can explore and try to figure things out together and discover the story that Jesus is telling and that he's writing in the world, and that he wants to go forward unhindered, and he wants to invite us into that, and our story becoming a part of that story that carries on and brings the kind of healing and change that the world so desperately needs, and that I think we all want. And as we seek that out, we are going to discover something that Jesus says can't be questioned. And that is God's love for you and for me. No matter wherever and however you're seeking, I hope you do see that.
So during COVID, I didn't really want to go to students groups. I thought it was gonna be like kind of a waste of my time. Like maybe I had better things to do because COVID was kind of getting me down. So Avery invited me to come. Avery was like, please just come, just try it. Your leaders miss you, your friends miss you, everybody misses you. We just want you to come back, maybe if 1 week, just 1 week. I finally gave in after her nagging. I decided to invite my sisters because it had just been kind of hard recently, and so we all kind of wanted a friend, somebody to, be able to rely on. And so when I was like, hey, you can meet some really, really valuable people here, they were kind of like, okay, I'll give it a try. I would be in a much different place if Avery hadn't invited me back to students groups, because I've had some deep moments where it's been bad, and what are you gonna do? You have to have somebody to lean on, to rely on. And, for me, that's, some of the friends that I've made through church have gotten me through the toughest times with like prayer requests and, everybody just showing that they care. If you're nervous about coming to students groups, just come and see. Just try it, and you never know.